field station of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Ventura Fish and Wildlife Office works to conserve and protect threatened and endangered fish, wildlife, plants, and their habitats across the central and southern California coast. The area is home to 97 federally endangered and threatened species, from the internationally renowned California condor and southern sea otter, to lesser-known species like the California red-legged frog and Ohlone tiger beetle. It is our job to work with our partners to prevent the extinction of those rare species and support their recovery. Our natural resource professionals work to protect the ecologically diverse resources of our coastline, from the unique coastal dunes and estuaries of Santa Cruz and Monterey counties to our north, to the agricultural landscapes in San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties, and the heavily urbanized areas around Los Angeles to our south. Working with local communities and conservation partners, we aim to build a future that supports both people and wild places. Here's a look at some of our conservation success stories this year in our 2015 year-in review.
I believe it's our responsibility to avert human-caused extinctions and to restore degraded ecosystems, and I'm proud to work for an agency that dedicates itself to those goals. I'm Lillian Carswell, and I work to protect southern sea otters and their marine environment. Southern sea otters are a threatened species under the Endangered Species Act, and they're also considered depleted under the Marine Mammal Protection Act. The sea otter has been slowly expanding its range. At the center of the range, which is occupied for quite a long time, it's at carrying capacity, so per capita prey availability is pretty limited. At the end of the range, where we would expect to see range expansion, we're seeing high levels of shark bite mortality, which is slowing or essentially stopping natural range expansion. This year, I helped to launch a program called Be Sea Otter Savvy. It's an education and outreach program, and its aim is to educate kayakers, wildlife watchers, and other marine users about the effects of disturbance on sea otters and to promote respectful and responsible wildlife viewing.
Growing up as a child, I recall exploring fields, creeks, and other natural places, and I became quite inspired by the natural world and wanted to ensure that future generations had that same opportunity. My name is Robert McMorrin, and I work to protect and recover imperiled species and their habitats. During the late 1990s and early 2000s, island fox subspecies on 4 of the islands experienced drastic declines that resulted in the very near tragedy of extinction. On the northern Channel Islands, San Miguel, Santa Rosa, Santa Cruz, this threat was the result of predation by golden eagles, and to the south on Santa Catalina Island was the result of canine distemper. As a result of the remarkable success of the Endangered Species Act, recovery actions implemented by land managers and conservation partners, we have brought these endangered island fox subspecies back from the brink of extinction in what has the potential to be one of the fastest recoveries of any mammal listed under the ESA. This past March, we released a final recovery plan. The recovery plan equips us and our land managers with tried and true methods to protect island fox now and into the future. This recovery plan is the result of partnerships between the Island Fox Recovery Team, the National Park Service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Nature Conservancy, Catalina Island Conservancy, along with academia, researchers, and the public. We also initiated status reviews of the 4 listed fox subspecies. This process allows us to determine whether any or all of these subspecies warrant reclassification or removal from the endangered species list. Looking into the future, I'm excited to continue working with our conservation partners to ensure these iconic animals remain part of the Channel Islands ecosystem for years to come and for future generations to enjoy.
I joined the Peace Corps and went to Haiti for a couple of years. They have so little of their natural landscape left. Here in this country, we still have an opportunity to save endangered species and save special landscapes. And that really piqued my interest in trying to understand more about nature, and particularly plants. I'm Connie Rutherford, and I work on rare plant conservation. This year, one of the projects that I was really excited about was working on the recovery of Nepoma lupin, and that species is highly restricted to a small area in San Luis Obispo County. This is one of the species that we've been most concerned about in our office in terms of making sure that it doesn't go extinct. Eventually what we'd like to do is to be able to outplant some additional populations around the existing populations. Some of the challenges we've had with this particular plant is that it does not reproduce very easily. We needed to step back and try to figure out how can we even propagate the species. We worked with a whole variety of partners, including UC Santa Barbara, the Santa Barbara Botanic Garden, the Land Trust of San Luis Obispo County, and they all pulled together to do their part to work on this project and trying to figure out just exactly what the right conditions were for getting seeds to germinate and grow and successfully produce a lot of seeds so that we would have those seed for the outplanting efforts. It's been really rewarding to work with all of those very dedicated people and also to see the progress that we've made for the plant.
I've always been interested in the environment, and I'm particularly interested in how contaminants affect the environment and wildlife. My name's Jenny Merrick, and I'm a biologist with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and I work primarily on spill response and restoring the environment after spills. An oil spill occurred on May 19th, 2015, and it was a rupture from a pipeline that released around 140,000 gallons, and the oil flowed from onshore through a creek and was released into the ocean. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service worked alongside many other agencies to help clean up that oil spill and also to help understand how the oil impacted the environment. Fish and Wildlife Service employees were involved in wildlife operations, which involved going out to the beaches and capturing birds, pelicans, and bringing them in to treatment facilities. California brown pelicans is one of the species that was pretty successfully rehabilitated. And so now we are able to track the success of the rehabilitation of those birds. And we've already noticed birds flying far and wide, and so we'll be able to track them long term. So we're working side by side with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as well as the State of California, Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, and we're also working cooperatively with many of the local cities and counties that were impacted. There's a process in place that natural resource trustees use to determine how oil spills impact the environment, and it's called natural resource damage assessment. And so what that is we look at the various receptor classes that were impacted by the spill. In this case, birds, marine mammals, sandy beach ecosystems, rocky intertidal systems, fish, subtidal, and recreational uses, because even injury and impacts to recreation is a natural resource injury. And once we understand how the magnitude of injury to all these classes of natural resources, we then look at what restoration projects can be undertaken in order to compensate for those injuries. The goal of the natural resource damage assessment is to make the public whole for the injury to natural resources that was caused by the oil spill.
I wanted to work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service because, to me, they were the ultimate conservationists. The bald eagle was delisted, the peregrine falcon was delisted, and they were a great example of how conservation can be achieved on a larger scale. My name is Lena Chang, and I'm a fish and wildlife biologist. I work to protect threatened and endangered species in the California area. We've been working for many years with the Army, particularly on Fort Ord. Fort Ord was an Army base that was developed in 1917 and operated until they closed in 1991. And over those years, groundwater was contaminated, there was some lead contamination from spent bullets, and they were required to clean it up under the EPA Superfund program. Fort Ord happens to be a very diverse area. It's in the Monterey Bay area, it covers about 28,000 acres, and there are a number of state and federally protected species on the lands. In cleaning up and restoring the habitat there, the Army has worked with us for many years to protect listed species as they cleaned up and restore the land. Some of those species include Smith's butterfly, 4 threatened or endangered plants, and threatened salamander. So in the past year, we completed a large, all-encompassing consultation so that the Army could complete their cleanup while protecting these 6 federally threatened or endangered species. So the consultation is a way that the Army can work with us so that we can help them minimize impacts to listed species, and having one large consultation to finish out their cleanup and restoration activities will help save time and effort from doing a lot of other smaller consultations in the future. But we'll continue to work with the Army as much as they need us to until they're done.
I've been interested in working with endangered animals all my life. Even as a child, I was really drawn to the rare and unique species that this country has, and have been very excited to be able to work with the organization that's most responsible for protecting those species. I'm Bill Stanley, and I work with public and private landowners to implement the Endangered Species Act, which was written to protect endangered species and the habitats that they rely upon. We work with various military organizations from the Army, Navy, and Air Force to protect endangered species on their installations. This year, our office was fortunate to be able to nominate the environmental team at Vandenberg Air Force Base for the National Military Conservation Partner Award. And this was to recognize the many efforts that they do on their installation to preserve endangered species and work with others, including state and private organizations. The Vandenberg Air Force Base includes one of the largest breeding sites of the threatened western snowy plover in the country. And this year they enhanced 50 acres of breeding habitat by removing invasive species. Already we've seen an increase in the number of western snowy plovers breeding in that area. They plan to expand that area the next few years to a 300-acre restoration area.
The American people love wildlife and nature, and with 70% of our lands in the U.S. being on private lands, I want to help them to improve that habitat for wildlife. My name's Kathleen Louise Paulette, and I'm a biologist with the Partners for Fish and Wildlife program, and we work with private landowners like ranchers and farmers to improve habitat for wildlife. We're here to help people help the land, which is the Natural Resources Conservation Service slogan, which we partner with them a lot. I've worked with a number of landowners. I think just the partnerships themselves and the relationships and talking with people about their values and wildlife. We've worked with a landowner to excavate a pond that previously functioned to hold water, and then the rodents had destroyed the embankment, so we re-excavated it and compacted it such that the water doesn't seep through the ground. And now it has water long enough that the amphibians can reproduce and metamorph into adulthood and be successful. This project is especially going to benefit the California red-legged frog, which is federally threatened and declining in the area. We're here if they want advice or assistance, that they can come to us and we can come out to their property and help them to improve things so that they can have more wildlife and better care of the land.
They represent our Central Coast. If you think about it, it's like there's so many locations where you go and you see a monarch fluttering past. And then we have these areas where they're clustering in these huge masses, and it's just a spectacle to see. And that to me is inspiring for us and for future generations, that they have that opportunity to see that in nature. I and my team work on voluntary conservation projects for our office, and we work on habitat restoration, land protection, outreach, and education. As far as in our area, the state of monarchs, we've been seeing declines in the populations of overwintering. The Central Coast has the bulk of the overwintering sites.
So the Fish and Wildlife Service is working with the Xerces Society and other partners to get more information about where milkweed is in the landscape.
Milkweed, of course, is really important to monarchs because that's where they breed and where they lay their eggs and new butterflies form. Our field office has really stepped up to do as much as we can to help monarchs in terms of not only their overwintering sites, but their migratory dispersal across the landscape. We've had a number of opportunities to do festivals and kind of introduce people to monarch conservation and the need. So in November we hosted an event at the Santa Paula Agricultural Museum for the Dias de los Muertos, which is Day of the Dead, which is for the Hispanic community is part of their tradition relating to monarchs, and that it's the return of their ancestors. Part of that event, we gave information about monarch conservation, we gave out seeds, we informed people kind of what they could be doing to conserve the species. We connected with the agricultural community, of which pollinators like monarchs are really important, as well as the local community in terms of the heritage of monarchs to their culture.
It's always been a dream of mine to work in the outdoors and help conserve outdoor spaces. I am an outdoor recreationist at heart, and that's really where my passion is. My name is Colleen Dragescu. I especially love going on campouts with groups like the Bishop Paiute tribe. It really gives me time to really connect with and have a kind of more mentoring relationship with kids, and it really is the best part of my job, and it's what I look forward to every year. Working with the Bishop Paiute tribe and their environmental youth program. We went to Yosemite National Park and Santa Cruz Island, which is also a national park. But when we went to Santa Cruz Island, there was about 30 tribal youth, as well as some parents and chaperones, and we also had some members of the Santa Ynez Chumash tribe, which is a local tribe here. And it was really neat because some of the kids had never been to the ocean before, they had never seen a dolphin before. They got to connect to this new wild place that they had read about, they'd seen on TV, and they really connected deeply with it. We got to do some nature hikes on the island where we got good vantage points for many miles. We also got to go kayaking where we got a first-hand view of being in sea caves and what it might be like to be fishing out there. There were native people living on those islands for a long time, and so it was really neat to hear the stories that they've been passing down through generations about how life may have been. It gives me a sense of purpose in my job, and I love to inspire the next generations to love the things that we care about so much here at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
There's nothing better in my job or my life than seeing a little kid discover a frog for the first time or a horned lizard for the first time, seeing the smile on their face. It's a great job. My name is Michael Glenn, and I'm a wildlife biologist, and my job is connecting people with nature through various environmental programs. The Condor Kids program is a program where we go to schools this year in the Fillmore Unified School District, and we talk to students about condor recovery, condor ecology, condor biology, and we get to take students out to see California condors in the wild. They get to experience the habitat, and they also get to have a sense of, accomplishment of doing something to help the condors. One of the things I'm the proudest of is seeing students that are now in 3rd grade going to see a California condor in the wild, when I know that I met them when they were in preschool or kindergarten and introduced this adorable beast to them, and now they get to go see it in the wild. A student come running up to me and say, "Hey, I remember you talking to me about this 3 or 4 years ago." And now they're doing something to help that species. The other program is schoolyard habitats. Here in Ventura County, we're up to 12 schools. A schoolyard habitat is designed by students and teachers. We work together to create the habitat, design the habitat, plant the habitat, and it's an outdoor classroom where students can go out and learn about the plants and animals that are native to their area. Particularly helpful for the monarch butterfly. The monarch butterfly is in some trouble where they need some help, and they need habitat, and they need food sources and water sources. Part of this is hopefully the students will take what they've learned home and create more monarch habitat at home. And I definitely hope and I'm positive that some of them are going to become future scientists and biologists, and that's really rewarding to get to see that, to get to watch them light up when they're learning about science.
On behalf of our staff, thank you for watching our 2015 Year in Review.